Mr. Speaker, we have done 451 million. Every minister has a county. And I am ready to work with every member here to give you the seedlings, to work with KEFRI and KFS. Mr. Speaker, where you come from, you have seen what UNHCR. UNHCR, Mr. Speaker, and I want you to support me, is a global UN entity to take care of the interests of refugees. They must provide an alternative energy source. They have cut all the trees over the years. I have told the UNHCR country director, it will not be business as usual. I will go with you to the dam. And I told them I have the backing of all the members of parliament from that area. They're even killing elephants. They're killing giraffes and sell them. Together, all of us must protect. So, Honorable TJ, I have told you who is polluting, and we will deal with them. What are we doing about it? We are removing all dam sites and structures along the riparian land. Honorable TJ, help us on this Nairobi River regeneration. We lost 42 people during the floods. We are not ready to lose any other life. We are not ready. The Madare River, the Ngong River, Honorable Member for Madare, lost a lot of people. We must bite the bullet. The president is ready. The government is ready. We are committed. Kenya is a capital of UNEP. We have a green constitution. We must have Nairobi River like the Thames River. At one time, the Thames River was a sludge. Today, the Thames River is a great transport hub in London. In addition to this intervention, Nairobi River Commission was established by His Excellency. The story of it, I think the Honorable Member has my answer. He asked a second question to outline the number of facilities along the Nairobi River that discharge affluent. I think I've answered. NEMA has conducted inspection to identify the illegal discharging along the riparian. Out of the 145 facilities, which we have mapped, 101 facilities have been listed by NEMA as having compliance issues because they don't have the required discharge according to the law. I have attached the list. I have nothing to hide. Yes. Even the banks, I have searched with the banks, they have a sustainability obligation, KCB, equity. If they are giving credit to a company, to a factory that is destroying the environment, even that sustainability of that company will be in question. So about 101. We have slaughterhouses who are discharging raw affluent to Nairobi River. NEMA will undertake compliance evaluation through inspection. Question 3, Mr. Speaker, was Honorable TJ has asked our indulgence to state the measures that we have put in place. And I think I've already put it. But let me come to what are we doing about pollution control and waste water management. The Speaker, groups and those who run clubs, some of them are running clubs under a tent, like in Kitengela. The music that they play can even disturb a family 5 kilometers. Even our citizens, when they are celebrating a graduation or a birthday, they must comply with the law. They must. You can't bring all your friends because your son is graduating and then you play music the whole night. Some people have sick people. Some have young children. Some people are tired, they want to sleep early. So, Speaker, I am a victim. This weekend in my own estate. But because I I didn't want to be accused of using my powers. I wrote a small note to the chairman of our estate, and I told him, this is against the law. Please, by 10 o'clock, reduce noise pollution. NEMA partnered. NEMA has the powers. They have a police, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, there's something this House has given us under regulation. It's called Extended Producer Responsibility Enforcement. That if, for example, a bottle of Coca-Cola or a packet of Brookside is found along Nairobi River, that company, under extended producer responsibility, they must come and clean that river. NEMA must issue that restoration order. And that's why, Mr. Speaker, during the finance bill, one of the biggest multinational companies was against the eco levy. Why was that company against the eco levy? Because their franchise in Kenya, when their packets or their bottles are found along Nairobi River and NEMA uses the extended producer responsibility, that responsibility goes to the owner of the brand, who is a multinational. And they came, I was watching, they come before the finance committee. They don't want to take responsibility. So, Mr. Speaker, when the restoration support bill come next month or next year, that will be used to protect the environment, our ecosystem, I really want to ask colleagues here to support that bill and to make it even more punitive. Honorable Speaker, I think on noise pollution, it's becoming a very, very serious issue. So restoration order, sustainable waste management, the law is there of 2022. This House has enacted it. It aims to promote a circular economy in waste management, such as segregation of waste at source. In your homes, in the next few months, I will gazette the coded, where in your homes you must have a waste bin for the waste, for the wet waste, for the organic, and for the dry. The vehicles that will carry must carry separately. And when they take it to Dandora dam site, there must be different areas for different waste. For the dry one, the young people can use it for recycling. For the organic, can be used even for manure. Our public transport system must have waste bins, Mr. Speaker. That when, if you eat a banana, you don't throw it from the window. So public transport owners must provide. And so, Mr. Speaker, all these, we will enforce the noise pollution. We will enforce those who are dumping effluent to Nairobi River. When we deal with them, please don't call me. Because you will call me, it is my friend, it is somebody who supported me. Let us, all of us together, and I really want to indulge this House. I really want to indulge the leadership of Kenya is sitting here. Please, let us be remembered for conserving our environment. Let us be remembered for the fourth preamble of our Constitution that says we must protect, preserve the environment for the current generation and the future generations. The framers of the Honorable Speaker was part of the constitution making. The framers of our Constitution, I had a chat with the judges of the Environment and Land Courts. They totally agree with me. They said, up to the Chief Justice, let us, all of us, citizens, make sure, but Nairobi members of Parliament, majority are sitting here, my final shot. please help me and the president and the multi-agency team. There was a question why, I think, Honorable, why KDF? I think that's the question that you want to deal with me when I appear before the Environment Committee. And I was ready tomorrow, but I am told tomorrow members have other important business. Mine is not important anymore. So they have given me a date of 15th. And as a ranking member, Mr. Speaker, this one is very important, so you better go do it. I have no vote, but it is important. So tomorrow, Honorable TJ, I got a letter from the committee. We meet on the 15th. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, I'm sure that the House is seriously excited that we have a new sheriff on environmental matters in town. And I wish I was not on the chair and I was on the other side when you were talking about the UNHCR and what needs to be done. But in any case, I know me and you come from the same county, so we'll talk about it. It's a serious work, and you're cut for the job, and you're doing a fantastic job. Now, the Honorable members, Martin Owino, followed by Anthony Oluoch. Order. No, you will get your shot. You will get your shot.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
TJ, wait. You will take the final shot, and the minister will. That's the tradition right now, which is set in here. You ask, and then you also give the last question, so that the minister can. Yeah, Honorable Owino.
Thank you so much,
followed
Mr.
by
Speaker.
the Honorable Anthony Oluoch. Then I'll go to the ladies.
Yes, Duale, congratulations. We know people miss you, but some people miss you more, especially for us who you mentored in first term. I just want to ask for the small rural urban areas, like in Ndewa, who are struggling right now with how to deal with this pollution and also mismanagement of waste. So my question is, right now we are reactive because of missteps when things were being done. Is there any plan for prevention of these messes? For example, working together with the Ministry of Planning for proper town planning, for these upcoming urban areas like Ndewa. And are you also going to reach out to our youth? Because we also need this engagement of youth which you have created. So don't just stop at the county level, but are you also going to reach and work with the constituencies so that they can help in managing the environment? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yeah, the Honorable Watch. Let it be a question. I don't make it very long.
Okay, thank you very much. And CS, allow me to also thank you and for the very seamless transition. It appears as if you are actually fit for the environment as opposed to the previous one. I come from a neighboring constituency from my friend, Honorable TJ Kajwang. Let me begin by the pollution or the polluters that you have indicated, and you very correctly said that the informal settlements hardly do the majority of the pollution. In one of my constituency wards called Mlango Kubwa around Mau Mau Road, if you go there, a new dumping site has now started for the last 1 year. And if you look at some of what is being dumped, the menu does not look like some of the constituents who voted for me. You find macaroni remains, pishori papers. I mean, you find a lot of polythene paper of things that ordinarily I know for a fact that are not consumed on a daily basis by my constituents. But that is besides. The main point that I wanted to make to the CS is in relations to the Madare River, the demolitions that took place, and you correctly said that majority of the people affected came from my constituency and Ruaraka constituency. The people in my constituency are still smarting from the demolitions and the removals that took place in that particular place. I am very happy, and I'm sure TJ is, that Nairobi River Commission is coming to your ministry. That you have indicated you will address on the 15th, and I would be happy to appear alongside TJ. The main question that I wanted to ask you is in relation to slaughterhouses, and you indicated that slaughterhouses are one of the main causes of pollution. In Mathare, I have the Kiamaikol community, where the mainstay of business for the Somali community is slaughter. Your predecessor intervened when NEMA people targeted the Somali community in my constituency for harassment when they consistently were in compliance with the standards that were being made. To date, they still continue to be harassed. They still continue to be threatened with the closure of their slaughterhouses. And I want to invite you, CS, that you take the opportunity to come to my constituency, in particular to Kiamaikol Ward, because then you will have a live interaction of, do the slaughterhouses, all of them, contribute into pollution of the rivers, or is there an element of corruption and high-handedness from the NEMA people because of business competition? You will also be able to see yourself the Nairobi River that passes there and get the participation of the local people on how best we can be able to preserve two things: the businesses that must continue of the Kiamaikol people and the Nairobi River that we must protect. Thank you. CS.
The Honorable Beatrice Elachi, followed by the Honorable Omanyo, and I'll come to all of you. The Minister, the CS will take a few questions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I also want to really thank the CS, who is one of the majority leaders that we've had in this country, and we will remember for many years his consistency when he means something, and I believe this is what he means in the Ministry of Environment. Mr. Speaker, mine is to just say two things. I appreciate, as he says, that we are now going to deal with Nairobi Water and also with Athi. And for me, the issue here is now the drainages and the sewers within the informal settlements, where you find they're the ones after, let's say, for example, when it rains, definitely they will drain to Nairobi River. How can we deal with that? And how can we bring in new sewer lines where there are no sewer lines? If that can really help us. But more importantly also, how can we have a program in schools where children in informal settlements can learn also how to dispose garbage, because they'll be able to assist their parents in terms of separation of garbage and all that. And lastly, is there a way we can have a program with the Turkish government, I think, so that we can have olive oil trees, which we know you can plant anywhere, whether it's in a dry land, it will grow, so that we have those seedlings and help now for those who are in areas where they are semi-arid or really arid to plant those trees, and it will help us even with oil. Thank you.
Honorable Omanyo, you can ask your question also.
Oh, I thought I was next, Mr. Speaker.
Oh.
Me?
But you're Omanyo, I thought.
Yes.
Yeah, proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Buena CS, thank you so much for your extensively well-elaborated answers. But in Busia, we have, it's like two things happen at a go. Whenever it rains, it is too much that the overflow happens and the riverbanks burst, especially in Budalangi, and most of the habitats have to run away for safety all the time whenever it is raining. So while we are thinking of planting trees, other areas that are dry to attract rains, we have too much sometimes. And my question is, what is your plan to raise either something that can obstruct whenever the overflow happens in Budalangi, because this should stop. It has been there since I was not born. Then I'm now this age, the same story of floods affecting our people. And then now when you go to Teso North, there is a hard pan. I tried to dig boreholes. I couldn't go beyond. And that the few areas that have boreholes, they are seasonal. So there is a problem in that area in Teso North. I'm asking, is there a way we can have piped water to go across the sub-county, or a dam that can feed all the area, because that area, women are raped at night and girls going across the other county in Bungoma to queue for 6 to 8 hours. I meet men whenever I'm doing my own crisscrossing, and they make it as a joke and say, at night you wake up, you are touching left and right, your wife is not there. She has gone to look for this important basic need, water. So we can save a lot. When you come to Budalangi, food insecurity is now high. Poverty levels have gone too high as well. And no one anywhere in the world is likes to be put or called as poor. There are situations that happens and they find themselves like that. Now that you have been sounding so knowledgeable, I am begging, as the women representative there, that we put it pragmatically so that it doesn't just look very well done theoretically.
Fair enough.
Thank you.
The Honorable Murugara, and then Cherorot, and then the Honorable Kajwang, and the rest of you will take a serious bite on the next question.
Thank you.
There's another question also which is very similar to this, and you can ask anything on environment, because the minister is there for the Minister for Environment. So
Thank you. Thank you.
basically, yeah.
Thank you.
And he will take note of all these things and he will answer them. Whatever he can't answer them, he'll answer them the next day.
Thank you.
Proceed.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. So, Speaker, allow me also to voice my delight this afternoon to have our former Leader of Majority being with us here. Even when he became a ranking member, I remember we used to do many, many long hours in the House, and as he can witness, we are still doing it with vigor. So we are carrying on, we are holding forth in respect of the House. Mr. Speaker, allow me to ask him regarding the pollution that Honorable T.J. Kajwang has actually asked about. We know very well Nairobi River is murky. In fact, as we live within the precincts of Nairobi, you cannot, unless where it is absolutely necessary, you cannot drink that water. But as the river goes down, it gets into Machakos and then into Makueni. And residents there actually use that water when it is not treated. It's a very big health hazard. What measures is the government putting in place to ensure that even as we clean the river here in Nairobi, the water is also treated so that the health and safety measures that would apply in Machakos and Makueni are applicable and those people are safe? Similarly, but in the contrast, the Tana River has very clean water. As it traverses the Raka, we actually use that water without any treatment, and hardly, seldomly, can it be said that it's a health hazard. And I know you do it in Garissa, because I come to Garissa quite often, and I see as it flows under the bridge. But as we speak today, there is a very serious threat to that river because of the water towers, which are on Mount Kenya, Nyambene Regis, and those ones. The tributaries that drain into Tana River are now dry, and therefore the river has very little water. When you combine that with harvesting or harnessing of electricity, then you have a dry river as it meanders past Garissa into the Indian Ocean. What measures is the government putting in place to ensure that, first and foremost, we save the water towers of Mount Kenya and Nyambene Regis? Number two, that we plant trees that are actually friendly to the riverine condition, special trees that will help in preserving water along the Tana River and its tributaries.
Honorable Cherorot, be very brief.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First of all, I want to tell the CS that he is equal to the task. And for him to succeed also, he has to make sure that he cuts across the Ministry of Water and Agriculture because they are interconnected. Mr. Speaker, I want to say that the challenge we have in our country is the air pollution, and also the challenge we have is that we have to shop wisely. Because the other day, Mr. Speaker, I was from Nakuru, and I was following another car. And the guy in front of me, the users of that car, threw some waste. I think they were eating some food, and then they threw it on the road. Mr. Speaker, I want to ask the CS, what are the measures that you are going to put in place to make sure that Kenyans behave wisely and they handle their environment well? Another thing that I want to ask the CS is that what plans do you have? Because you find that in our country, most of the rivers have been neglected. And I want to ask him, what measures is he putting in place to make sure that Kenyans themselves own it and participate, especially by taking care of their environment? Lastly, Mr. Speaker, I want also to say that I'll ask what also measures is he going to make sure that he put in place so that we employ the use of recycle, because there is a problem, reuse and recycle, so that we can be able to manage well our waste, Mr. Speaker. Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable TJ, so that the Minister, we can dispose of that question. We'll go to the next question and you'll take a bite of that.
Mr. Speaker, many members have...
You will have an opportunity on the next one. The Minister has taken already too many members. Order. Proceed.
Mr. Speaker, many members have complimented, congratulated, and expressed a lot of faith in the Cabinet Secretary. So I wouldn't go there. I will just take it where it belongs. But I have to give him worth the distinction that he has in relevance. I think he has attended to this question with a lot of relevance. But so that these questions are not shrouded, I have a lot of respect for members, but they have asked a lot of carry-through questions, which may lose the gist of the question that this minister came here to respond to. I want to pick only 4 aspects of it very quickly, so that the minister is brought back to the questions which are direct to this issue. In question Roman 3 says, what measures are there to address the discharge of effluent into rivers and water sources in the country? And the minister has responded, well so, that one of the things that they have in place is this animal called Nairobi River Commission. I want to take that. Now, Mr. Speaker, the minister aware, of course, I'm sure he is, being a ranking member of this House, who knows legislation making and so on. He knows of Gazette notice, special issue number 258 of 2nd of December 2022, which created this Nairobi Rivers Commission. And in this notice, the Gazette especially is 14891, which quotes the Climate Change Act and quotes the Environmental Management and Coordination Act. Of course, the issue of the rivers is in the Act of Environmental Management Act. In fact, at that time, the Climate Change Act, you read it all, there is no function at all that is given to Nairobi Rivers Commission. And yet, that is the act upon which this is predicated. But worse, over the page, it is signed by a man that I'm coming to respect, called Honorable the President, William Samoei Ruto. Now, under that act, it is this CS who has the authority to appoint a commission not the president at all, and it is not delegated function. And number two, this gazette notice must be laid before this House under delegated powers and jurisdiction of this House. And nobody has the power to make law other than this House. I'm sure the minister knows this. And so they create a commission, and yet it is this commission which is driving the policy of cleaning the Nairobi River. I am going to meet him on 15th, but in that 15th, I've asked him to consider disbanding this commission and creating it afresh in a legislative process that is viable. But in this case, he would have to respond and say if, in this question I have asked, that if this commission were to drive this process, that it is dead as dodo, ab initio. Number two, I like what the minister is saying about producer responsibility. In other words, if it is breweries, or if it is sewerage, Nairobi sewerage, or Athi sewerage, they have a responsibility on these river courses. I like that. And is the minister considering creating a more substantive enforcement powers under these commissions or the companies that are responsible? For example, to insist that their balance sheets, there must be an account in which some portion of money in what they make, whether profits or not, is dedicated to the cleaning up of these river courses because of that responsibility which the minister is talking about. The last one is, you see, Honorable Oluoch is on the upper coast than me, so he gets polluted before I get polluted in that course as it goes down the road. But you see, there's a neglect of Nairobi River. And so even when you say about dumping, there must be consistent way of opening up that river course by dredging, and that is not very little money. Dredging the course to keep it open so that the substances as they pass through, including medical affluents, Mr. Speaker, there are a lot of things that Oluoch and I, we see in that river coming from the myriads of clinics. There are more clinics than there are people. I don't know whom they are treating, but there is more clinics than there are people. And all that effluence is coming down the river. So dredging, and then people from a place that I have a lot of respect for have this affinity of land. When they see land, their body changes. So what they do is that they dump sand. They dump quarry sand on the coast of the river so that as much as it is getting constricted,
TJ,
Mr. Speaker, this is very important.
The chair has given you an inordinately long leeway for you to make your case, but don't turn this into a very long speech.
I'm most obliged. I'm most obliged. And you know, you and I are now the remaining ranking members in this House. So, Mr. Speaker, but the point is this, that these people are dumping quarry sand in packets so that the river creates some more land. This is what we learn, him and I. These people from those places, they have an affinity for land. So Mr. Speaker, the CS must know how to dredge this river course and remove all those this dump material so that the river gets back to its course wide and sure, and as it goes down, the water becomes a little loose and more liquid, so that there is a velocity that it flows down the river. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
CS, one serious takeaway, just to add on, is that if I got him right, he's saying, what regulatory, is it going to be a new piece of legislation that's going to give you more teeth than you've had before for you to be able to perform all this raft of very ambitious things, or you can do it through like regulations? Is that right, Mr.? Oh, okay, fair enough.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, And you are a ranking member. Maybe TJ follows you. And the Honorable Kamket has not had, because he's not very far from Honorable TJ. But the senior, senior ranking member is the Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this House, and Honorable TJ, and you know, the laws are there. The problem in our country is enforcement.
Fair enough.
And I'm going to deal with enforcement. And the man in charge of enforcement, whether it is noise pollution, whether it's waste management, whether it is environmental degradation, Nairobi River, dam sites, if all of us, the leadership, we work together, I want to assure you that the people who have been given the mandate, why does NEMA has police officers and other agencies don't have? It's because how important environment is. So Honorable TJ, I agree with you in creating the Nairobi River legal notice 14891, there are issues. But we are very lucky. I don't want to be accused, but now we have an Attorney General, one of the most brilliant women, I think, in Kenya. I will sit with her when the executive order is signed. Nairobi River comes to my ministry. We will sit with her. We want to work within a legal framework. Secondly, all that you're asking about Nairobi River, the 30-meter riparian size, we will drench Nairobi River. We will build embankments so the river comes back to its course and carry the water. But what I will do, because that presentation was done to His Excellency the President on Monday by our team, I will look for a day. I invite the Nairobi leaders, and we will show you the plan we have. I will not succeed in this ministry without the leaders, without the members of parliament. Honorable Oluoch, Honorable TJ, Honorable Beatrice Alachi, Honorable KJ, I need your support. But I want to assure, through the Speaker, Nairobi River will not be the same again. And this is not me saying, it's President William Ruto and the Commander-in-Chief who is saying he has only given me delegated authority. But it's him who said it on Monday, and we have a serious, and that's why we have started with Nairobi River. So we'll fix that. And I agree. You know, the members now have put me in many, many other issues. Let me speak to my good sister from Busia. The flooding control, please, and we have done research, work with KFS and KEFRI, plant more bamboo trees. Bamboo trees have become successful in the control of floodings. We will provide with you, we will go there, let us plant as many bamboo trees as possible. And you will count on me, that's success. The other issue which government did was, it's the same problem we are facing with the Tana River when it floods. As we go, get more money, but I think that we can do it. Because it's an intervention also for restoration of the ecosystem. If you mix it with the indigenous tree species, our honorable women rep, and even planting in the riparian areas, I can tell you that is a quick solution we can start with. On the challenge, Mr. Speaker, on Tana River by the Honorable Mulugara, I've missed you. There are times, Mr. Speaker, during our days, it was difficult, if you allow me, during our days it was difficult to impeach a deputy president. And the reason was we had the numbers. We had 145. And you know, if you have 117, you survive. So as we were aligned to William Ruto, we had 145, and Murugara was our lead counsel. So the problem of the challenge of siltation in Tana River is that we need to protect the water catchment areas through planting the right species. Tell the people not to plant eucalyptus. Eucalyptus trees will finish. Secondly, there are too many horticulture and farming, and people are diverting the water at the top of the Abadeas and the other areas. So by the time it's coming to Garissa, Tharaka, Tana River, it meanders and it migrates like the nomads. So even farmers, palms, this month is here, the next month it's in a dry area. And I agree with you, but let's help. Honorable Wino, very good point. I have talked to NEMA, we'll work with the county. We must ensure working with the Department of Physical Planning, and we'll come up with a holistic land use for even our rural part. But the NEMA person on the ground must...
Honorable Oluoch, you are supposed to be listening to the minister because he's answering the things you ask. Proceed, Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So, Honorable Wino, your point is very valid. I will prepare it conclusively, but we will deal with it. There was the issue of the solid waste management. The problem I have, and let me be very frank to the House, most of the challenges we are facing with waste management, noise pollution, environmental issues, all these are devolved. All these are devolved. And nobody in the counties wants to take care. I mean, we must face it. We must face it. And as I talk to you, let me start with Nairobi. And the president has really helped the county government of Nairobi. We will help him in terms of resources because we will not deal with Nairobi River if we don't fix the old debilitated sewer system in Nairobi. So the president has committed that he will first fix the sewer. Because the sewer line is in the river. Even when we want to drench, we will meet the sewer lines. But yesterday, the president has committed, and please, when it comes to the House, the budget, support it. Because we want to fix that sewer line and maintain it properly.
Yeah, I think...
we shall use what you call the expanded responsibility. Honorable TJ, I can tell you, today I want to forgive them. But if I give you the names of the corporations that pollute Nairobi River with their products, some of them, they make billions of profits. So when we bring a restoration fee order that will be domiciled in NEMA, that will be only used, to not go to the National Treasury to go and use it to pay debt. It will only be used, and you must amend that, you are good in amendments. It will only be used for environmental restoration and protection. Please support me. You saw it on the newspapers, because we must protect, even as honorable member from Lamu, we must even protect the marine ecosystem. It's very, very important to our country, Mr. Speaker. And you know Lamu very well. Mr. Speaker, as I conclude, Honorable Oluoch, you are a very good man, but please, I am not a Somali minister. I am a Kenyan minister. And that is the oath I took. But you are better, at least you have called me Somali. Some called me warrior, which is very, very demeaning. It's very demeaning. It's better you call me Somali, but not warrior. Warrior is very demeaning. It is a shame. Those people of mine, they have no choice. There are 15 of them who have not complied, the slaughterhouses. 2 have complied. They will not be closed because of competition. And I agree with you. I know who wants to close them. They employ a lot of people. But what I want you to do, the Korean government has given NEMA some facility to deal with affluent not to come to Nairobi River. I want us, we sit with us in my office with you and NEMA, and we agree on how we help them. Them do the business, and then they don't discharge their affluent to the river. So that I protect your votes, but I protect the environment. You know, and tell them what Didi said. I think, Speaker, Speaker, I have finished. Yes. We are, the only good thing Honorable Bichi said was, yes, we are working with the Kenya Curriculum Department to mainstream waste management into our school curriculum. We have already written to them so that our children, we teach our kids about waste disposal and waste sustainability. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think I have tried.
Yeah, you've done ably, yes, and very well answered that question. Now we're going to the last question. The last
one, I think, Mr. Speaker, if you allow me, is on saving our water towers. I think somebody asked, I think it was Honorable Murugara. We are doing fencing, we are doing restoration, we're involving the communities, and we are doing what is called Adapt a Forest Initiative. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Then the last question, the Honorable Member of Parliament for Tigania. Order, honorable members, you will get a bite now. So wait until the question is asked. They're pretty much similar, and I know I've noticed the honorable member for Lamu, the honorable member for Kwanza, the honorable Kamket, all of you will get an opportunity to also weigh in on this. So just relax, hold your horses. Proceed, Honorable Mutunga, and ask the question.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, allow me to thank Honorable Duale for very ably answering the questions so far. And since I did not get an opportunity to ask him a question on the past questions that he has answered, if you can allow me, I will first of all start with that, then I ask my question. Allow? I would ask one question.
No. Ask the question. Ask the question first.
Okay, Honorable Speaker.
In the follow-up question, then you can ask.
My question, Honorable Speaker, is
the rules are very, the tradition, yes.
On climate financing. I would like the Minister to explain the structure of climate financing in Kenya while outlining the key actors and the benefits gained through climate financing to fight issues arising from climate change. In other words, to address the issues arising through climate change.
Yes, proceed.
The second question is to elaborate on how carbon credits are quantified and remunerated accordingly in the country and mechanisms in place to ensure that farmers who plant trees qualify for carbon credits.
Very good.
Thank you.
Minister, yes.
Mr. Speaker, I have a lot of respect for Dr. Mutunga, very professional. When I saw his question, is what I grappled with during my vetting. I had to go and read on carbon credits, what it means. It's a very complicated thing. But Mr. Speaker, I wish to know that Kenya's climate financing structure comprises of a mixed international, national, and private sector financial flows, which are aimed at supporting our country's climate change, both in terms of mitigation and in terms of adaptation efforts. Because those climate financing deal with two. How do we deal with climate crisis? One is mitigation, the other one is adaptation. And this involves a multi-stakeholder framework. It involves integrated both public and private sector actors. It involves both bilateral and multilateral donors. It involves domestic institutions to channel funds towards addressing climate-related issues. And, Mr. Speaker, the structure of climate finance has key actors. Having said that, Mr. Speaker, allow me to highlight on who are these key actors in climate finance and what are their roles. The first actor is the National Treasury. And the primary duty of the National Treasury is the primary custodian of all matters of climate finance and responsible implementation of our climate finance policy. So whatever we do with our climate finance framework, number two, the National Treasury role is overall mobilization of climate funds, and they lead. When we go to COP29 in November, they will be the lead people in terms of climate finance negotiation under the United Nations framework for Convention on Climate Change, known as UNFCCC. The other function of the National Treasury is to establish a dedicated climate finance and green economy unit, which they did in 2016, and that unit coordinates, facilitates activities related to climate finance. Also, they are the current implementers in all our counties, I think even in Garissa and in Meru, where you come from. They are the implementers of a fund called Financing Locally Led Climate Action, known as FLOCA program. It's mainly run from the National Treasury, but the main stakeholders are county governments. Finally, Mr. Speaker, the National Treasury as an actor is the Kenya National Designated, the DNA, for Green Climate Fund. The DNA is in my ministry. It is domiciled in NEMA. That's where the register is for carbon market. But in terms of Green Climate Fund, the National Treasury holds the pen. The next group is the National Climate Change Council, ACTA. This is chaired by the President, and myself as the Minister for Environment is the Secretary. We have the Minister for Energy, we have somebody from the academia, we have somebody from the civil society, we have somebody from the marginalized communities, we have somebody representing the youth, and you passed it in the Climate Act Amendment 2 months ago, this House. I am at the stage of establishing that council. So what does this council do as an actor? This council's mandate is to provide legislative and policy direction. So whatever that comes to the House, whether it's a policy or legislative, it emanates. They do supervision, they do oversight, they do guidance on climate change across all levels of government, including even the climate finance mechanism that I've just talked about. It's called the Climate Change Fund. The third actor is the Interministerial Committee on Climate Finance, which was established in 2015 to provide leadership. Their function is to provide leadership on the climate finance activities in Kenya, including the GCF. The Interministerial Committee on Climate Finance is composed of senior technical officers handling climate change, climate finance matters from various ministries, from various departments, from various agencies, and even from the Council of Governors. The fourth actor is my ministry, Ministry of Environment, Climate Change, and Forestry. What do? We coordinate climate change actions in the country, and we are the focal point for this UNFCCC. We chair this Interministerial Committee on Climate Finance, and we operationalize the entity for Global Environmental Facility, which supports a number of our programs. The fifth actor is NEMA. What does NEMA do? As I said earlier, NEMA is the designated national authority for carbon markets in Kenya. The register is there. They do assessment when there is a carbon market project in your constituency. They analyze, they look at the law. And Mr. Speaker, I want to thank this House. The regulations for carbon market was passed last week. And for the first time, if, for example, there is a carbon offset project in Dr. Mutunga or the Deputy Speaker's, the Speaker's constituency, the community by law will get 40% of the proceeds. And the project will not continue until something called community development agreement is signed. Before, nobody was paying. There were many companies who were getting billions from even our soil carbon, and they were not paying anything. So NEMA is now mandated as a focal point. They co-chair the interministerial, and they do the implementing entity for the adaptation fund, and the direct access entity. Then we have the line ministries and state departments, and then we have the line ministries they must mainstream climate action in planning and budgeting. Then we have the county governments, the establishment of the county climate change funds. Many funds is going to our counties, and I think the Senate has an obligation to make sure that they also audit those funds. In our counties, the mainstreaming of climate action in the counties planning and budgeting process. I think the two final actors is the development partners. What do the development partners do? They have the provision of the climate finance and technical assistance. They include the multilateral, the World Bank, the African Development Bank. We have the bilateral actors, the European Union, the NIDA, USAID, CEDA, AFD, many of them JICA. Then lastly, we have the private sector. And what is their role as an actor in the climate financing? Their investment in low carbon climate resilient in terms of technologies and in terms of action. Kenya Commercial Bank, for example, is accredited by the Global Climate Fund. Equity Bank, Cooperative Bank, they have been nominated for accreditation. Kenya Private Sector Alliance, KEPSA, and Kenya Association of Manufacturers are members of the Interministerial Technical Committee. Speaker, the second, he asked what is the benefits of financing received? Honorable Speaker, Kenya is mobilizing an average of 300 billion every year on climate finance and climate-related investment from both the public and the private sector. Some of the notable climate funding and projects in Kenya include the IMF Resilient Sustainability Facility of $544 million, the FLOCA program, which I said it is domiciled mainly in our counties, of $295 US, the adaptation fund of $10 million US, the Kenya Smart Agriculture Project, $250 million US, and the Climate Investment Fund, USD 70 million. The climate finance, Mr. Speaker, received by Kenya brings several significant benefits that contribute to the country's effort to mitigate and to adapt to the impacts of climate change. These benefits are many, and they span across environmental, social, economic dimensions. They enhance resilience, they support sustainability, and they contribute to our development. Honorable Speaker, allow me to bring to the attention of the House that as a country, we have a significant climate financing gap, which hinders our ability to fully implement our climate goals, including those outlined in our country's national determined contribution. The full implementation of NDC requires a country to mobilize USD 62 billion. Despite the influx of international and domestic funding, the available financial resources fall short of estimated needs for climate financing. But Mr. Speaker, there are about 4 regulations remaining on climate financing, carbon market, carbon, even the registry, which I'll bring to the House next week. And we should be through, God willingly, before COP29 in Baku. I really want to urge the Committee of Delegated Legislation. They have really helped me when I was in defense, and even here when I'm in environment. We argued our case, and last week they really supported the first regulations. Once we deal with the legal framework, Kenya will be ahead. Kenya will be ahead of many, many countries in Africa in terms of how prepared are we for carbon market. Speaker, the second question, which is the final one, was to elaborate how carbon credits are quantified and remunerated accordingly in the country and mechanism in place. Speaker, this is very technical. So I think Dr. Mutunga might be the only one who will understand. Some of the, like the NDA, what the NDA is, what carbon trading is, what carbon index is, who is qualified, what are the parameters. On the last question, Mr. Speaker, the member seeks our indulgence to elaborate how carbon credits are quantified and to state mechanism in place to ensure tree planting farmers qualify. There's a member who asked me last week if my car is old and is polluting, I told him, in fact, you are supposed to pay. Well, this carbon thing is like, for example, the big corporations in the West, like airlines, because they are polluting, they are the polluters. We are the victims. So we trade in. We plant trees, then they offset that with the pollution. So, Mr. Speaker, it's good to define simple terms what a carbon credit is. This is a unit of exchange that individuals and firms alike use to offset their greenhouse gas emissions. Farmers who plant trees can qualify for carbon projects by participating in what we call agroforestry or restoration initiatives, where carbon credits are generated based on the amount of carbon sequestered by the trees over time. Mr. Speaker, one important requirement for farmers to consider the trees planted for this specific purpose of sequestering carbon have to be on the land for a long time to ensure permanency on carbon sequestered. Allow me to elaborate the process involved. A baseline scenario is first established to estimate how much carbon could have been stored in the absence of the project. Farmers, this could mean assessing the current land use or the vegetation before tree planting. Then farmers plant trees which capture and store carbon, what they call the carbon sink as they grow. The amount of carbon is then monitored periodically based on a tree species, on growth rates or area covered. Once the carbon is verified, carbon credits are issued based on the amount of carbon dioxide absorbed. One carbon credit represents sequestration of 1 metric ton of carbon dioxide equivalent. So farmers are remunerated, or they are paid, based on the sale of these carbon credits in carbon markets. The price of carbon credits can vary depending on market demand and the type of the project. A project developer or a farmer who wishes to engage in a carbon project shall first apply to the DNA through the register domiciled in NEMA for approval of the carbon project. The procedure for developing a carbon project are detailed in the Climate Change as Amended Act Carbon Markets Regulations, which was gazetted via Kenya Supplement, Kenya Gazette 105. So, Mr. Speaker, the Honorable Member for Tigania constituency marks as the end of his question, and I was to respond. But allow me that I will take time, he's my good friend, and ask even my team to take him through. Once we finish with the legal framework, this carbon market is going to benefit a lot of our people. And we have made sure 40%, if a carbon market project is brought to your constituency, 40% of the proceeds must go. And I'm happy in Wajir North, the Honorable Sane has written to me, and we will gazette the forest. The man in charge of forest is here. He will go with you, he will assess. It will be the first forest in northern Kenya. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Now we will order honorable members. I'll ask the MP for Kwanza, then followed by the MP for Lamu East, followed by the Honorable Sane, and then the Honorable Kamket. All of you ask.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Take as little time as possible. Don't
I will
make
take
a very
little
lengthy
time.
speech.
I've been sitting
In
here
any
for
case, the House is supposed to sit until 9 o'clock. So you still have 2 more hours if you want to debate on this.
Mr. Speaker, Sandisan, thank you very much for the chance. I want to take this opportunity also to thank the CS. I think you are up to the task. I know you because we've worked together in this House. You are very detailed, and I think you are very exposed. I want to thank you, and please continue. My question has been asked, but I think I want to make 2 comments, Mr. Speaker, which are very, very important. One, on this affluent and the drainage wastage, particularly in Nairobi. I had a chance to go to Israel, and I think page marking is not a problem. Mr. Speaker, I was impressed because the drainage system in Israel, and I was there, I was explained there's a system that actually trains the wastage, particularly solid wastage. Actually, it goes almost 6 kilometers away, and about 6 stages along the pipeline. And at the end of the day, at the end of the 6th stage, which is about 6 kilometers away, the water is very clean, and it's actually used for irrigation. So I think, when I see us, half the time, I don't want to say that you have to go to Israel, but if you have the time to get one of your officers to go there to benchmark on that, this sewage problem in Nairobi and urban areas will actually be solved. There's a system that actually cleans the water. At the end of it, you can't believe it, it's a clean water for irrigation. Secondly, I think on the wastage, on the afforestation.
MP for Kwanza.
Yes.
You have an opportunity to ask a supplementary question.
What? Can I just finish?
The opportunity is to ask a question.
Well,
but if you're going to make, you get a leeway, but don't make a long speech of all your experiences in Israel and everywhere. Proceed.
I will proceed. And I also, because I said my question was asked, I also want to find out whether there's any plan, because of afforestation, which is an issue, whether you have some plans, particularly on highway. And again, I want to say this, go to Denmark, you will see there's the government, I think, on the environmental, because I've got to one of my family members there, I saw along the highway, they have planted a lot of trees. And therefore, I also want you to take time to be able to benchmark in Denmark and see along the way, because you have, I think, 6 meters from the main stage and there's nothing. You can plant trees there. I also want to see if you have also the time to be able to do that benchmarking in Denmark.
Fair enough.
Thank you, because my question was asked. I just want to share this experience with my former colleague.
Okay. The Honorable Member for Lamu East.
This man has no manners.
Lamu East, the Honorable Raphael Wanjala. You're not on the chair. Don't tell the Honorable MP for Kwanza to sit down or to rise up. Proceed, Honorable.
Asante, Bwana Spika. nami kunipa hii nafasi nipate kumuuliza waziri maswali yangu. Mwanzo nichukue nafasi hii kumpongeza waziri. Kusema la kweli hapa bunge tumekumisi. Tulikuwa sauti tunaisikia sana hapa. So sasa hivi umekuja tumekumbuka ile sauti yako. Mimi ulipopata hii nafasi nilifikiri huyo mfugaji na mazingira ni vipi, lakini sasa hii nimeona umekuwa bingwa wa kuhifadhi mazingira. Ukizungumza inatoka rohoni kabisa. Ukishughulikia mazingira inakufanya upende. So naona ushaingiliana uko vizuri na pongezi kwa hilo. Swali langu la kwanza ni kuna wakati niuliza swali ya juu ya siu. Kuna kampuni inaitwa Zarara ilienda ikachimba kule gas, hawakupata, wakafunga, lakini kile kisima hakikufungwa vizuri. Kuna fumes zinatoka, moshi unatoka hapo, watu wakaogopa, na hiyo maeneo pia yamebadilika rangi, na kuna mtu yule alikuwa kilinda hapo alifariki. Sasa watu wameanza kuwa na wasiwasi. Nilipouliza swali hilo hapa bungeni nikajibiwa kwa maandishi. Wakati huo ni mabadiliko yalikuwa yametokea. So swali langu likawa halikujibika vizuri, nikasema nijibiwe tena, sijatosheka, lakini mambo ikapotelea hapo. Kwa hivyo naomba ile swali langu kama leo mnaweza kunijibu sawa, kama hamwezi mhakikishe nimejibiwa, maana ile iliyozungumzwa haikuwa sawa. Si vile kulivyo huko mashinani.
Fair enough.
Ya swali la pili, waziri, nimekusikia ukisema mambo ya hizi takataka iko kwa county. Ni kweli iko kwa county, lakini mimi hapa sina uwezo wa kwenda kumuuliza county, niko kwa bunge hili. Mimi nitakuuliza wewe. Kuna maeneo kama Lamu Mashariki, eneo ambalo Lamu Kenya nzima kwa kupanda miti tuko 42%, namba 2 Kenya nzima. Lakini utaona eneo bunge la Lamu Mashariki tuna vijiji 23. Tuna upande wa msitu na tuna upande wa bahari. Na watu wangu wanang'ang'ana kuhifadhi. Lakini hakuna mpangilio yoyote, hakuna alama yoyote ya kuonesha kutoka kwa national government au kwa county government kama kuna kitu inafanywa. Mnatupatia morali vipi? Naona waziri ukizungumza ukataja angalau upande wa marine wa bahari, na kuomba uliingize kwa fikra, kwa sababu hapa bunge nikikaa waziri yoyote akija hakuna mtu anataja Lamu Mashariki. Kwa hivyo wewe umeikumbuka Lamu Mashariki, naomba utufikirie, maana kule kwetu hakuna hata pahali birika imetengezwa ya kuweka takataka. Hizo takataka zote zinaikwa kwa bahari. Kwa hivyo nataka ulifikirie hilo, kama kuna mpangilio yote na sisi utufanyie. Asante. Au kama huko umefanywa uniambie ni gani, na mimi niko ground sana, sijaona pahali. Asante.
Mheshimiwa wa Wajir North.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Before I ask my supplementary questions, I want to correct.
I thought you were going to ask in Kiswahili the way Ruwaida was. But proceed.
Unfortunately, I look forward to a day when the Somali language, which is being the language of many, many millions of Kenyans, will be an official language, and then I would have done better. Mr. Speaker, I want to correct two issues the minister pronounced himself on. One, I appreciate his generosity that he wants to gazette Bute Malawa Forest. This has been gazetted 4 years ago. All I requested him is to operationalize the 19,000 hectares of land generously given to Kenya Forest Service. So it is already gazetted. I wrote to you for its operationalization, Bwana CS. One other statement he made remarks in regard to one scientist around, an environmentalist. Speaking in front of you is equally an environmentalist on matters at hand, Mr. Speaker. So you should not think that there's only one environmentalist in the House. And going straight to the issue, the climate financing issue. Mr. Speaker, there is a paradox globally that climate financing is not purposed to stop climatic abuse, but rather the rich nations want to abuse the climate so that they become richer and the poor ones continue suffering. So all that they are trying to do under the concept of climate change is to cut out a balance between adaptation and mitigation. That's all they are doing about climate change, to strike a balance so that those who are endowed can at least give the wealth they have sinfully acquired, to use the right word, in abusing the environment, to the vulnerable ones, the poor third world states. That is what climate change in a layman way means, Mr. Speaker. And in so doing, the structure is as complex as climate change itself. It is hard to understand this issue of carbon credit, hard, very complex. It is driven by the same selfish, rich abusers, Mr. Speaker. Now the issue. For us to come to the bottom of climate change financing, we know that the rangelands are the biggest sequester of carbon. It is a scientific concept. And where are the rangelands? Where you come from, Mr. Speaker? Where I come from, the northern Kenya, what we call ASALs. This is the biggest sequester of carbon that is a nuisance to the ozone and climate change. What structures are there? What mechanisms are there? And the most affected, the most vulnerable to climate change is, unfortunately, again, the pastoralists. The sequester, the vulnerable in equal measure. So how far is carbon financing established to make sure that those who are most affected and those who are to be the sequester of this bad element is at the core of it, is something I would wish to hear from the minister. Then, for us to structure climate financing, Mr. Speaker, there is a big data and knowledge gap. Data and knowledge gap. If you have big data and knowledge gap, it goes without saying that you can't come up with adaptation mechanisms appropriate to the risks. And consequently, what will arise? We will have a fragmented financing architecture too, that our climate financing will be fragmented. The architecture will not be smooth and well-oriented. So what are we doing about data? How authentic is our climate change data? How knowledgeable are pastoralists and those who are most affected? That is my first supplementary question, Mr. Speaker, and if you will allow me a bit of latitude to go into the first, because you stopped us, on issues of our environmental health concerning pollution on rivers, the Nairobi River. It is true, the Cabinet Secretary answered well on the matter, that maintaining a good standard of environmental health, it's a multi-sectoral, multi-pronged issue. It's not a one-off issue. It cuts across many ministries, many actors, and many livelihoods. But it is true what he said, it comes down to behavioral issue. We have informal settlements in Nairobi. How do we behave? The culture of disposing waste. But of concern to me, how is our sewerage system, is it being improved to make sure that effluents, raw effluents, human defecants do not go into our aquatic ecosystem, into our waters? And that tells me...
Honorable Sane, you've had a very long leeway. Ask one question now. You should be in the Committee on Environment and you should be giving all these ideas at the appropriate places.
Mr. Wanjala, the speaker addressed me and I am obliged to hear him. We don't have two speakers. My question in a nutshell, all that is happening in Nairobi is going downstream to downstream communities. Tana River, Indian Ocean. It's not only an impact on our terrestrial ecosystem. What are we doing on these effects on our aquatic ecosystem?
The minister will be at liberty to say that he was prepared for this question, or maybe give another day to answer some of these questions. They're very technical, and ample prior preparations is always important. Now I said Kamket, followed by Mgwen. You were supposed to have had. And Mutunga, you will get the final bite because you're the questioner. Order, Honorable Wanjala. Order. No, he's been here much earlier than you. And then the MP Oyula, Butula, and then Wanjala, you're the last. And then, of course, the questioner. And then be very brief.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'll be very brief. Mr. Speaker, while I want to appreciate the Cabinet Secretary for his very articulate replies to our questions, and I want to state, Honorable Speaker, that the Honorable Duale is a seasoned politician. And in fact, Mr. Speaker, in terms of seniority, in terms of loyalty, he has a proven record in serving with the Excellency the President. In fact, Honorable Speaker, in the current circumstances, if there is anyone who deserves, should our motion go through, to become the Deputy President of Kenya, is the Honorable Duale.
Okay.
And why not? I mean,
order, honorable members, order. And proceed.
And why not, Honorable Speaker? Because, you know, the Honorable Duale represents all pastoralists in this country. And the pastoralist community and population is not a small one. And somebody has said, together with the Muslim population. Anyhow, Mr. Speaker, I have a particular question, and I'll need your guidance, Honorable Speaker, on this. Some time back, about 5 months ago, the women rep for Baringo, Honorable Jamatia, brought a petition to this assembly. And that petition was correctly directed to the Committee on Public Petitions on the matter of an imaginary forest called Mukutani. Mukutani is a place that lies between Baringo South and Tiati constituency. The information I have, Mr. Speaker, is that the ministry has been frustrating Parliament, particularly the Committee on Public Petitions, on this matter. I want to confirm to you, Mr. Speaker, that indeed there is no forest in Mukutani. What has happened is a gazettement of a particular area illegally for
the Honorable Kamket,
yes,
Honorable Kamket,
yes.
You have brought an issue that is not on the order paper today.
I just want the Cabinet Secretary to answer this.
But you see, it's not the questions.
The issue is this, Mr. Speaker. Let me just go straight to it. That is it government policy? Is it policy, Mr. Speaker, that the government can decide to wake up one day and gazette a place that is populated by people and their livestock and their animals and whatever, and they designate it as a forest where there is no forest in the first place?
Order, Honorable Kamket. You don't lazily, and I use this word, come in and try and turn a question that was filed by an honorable member on a substantive matter and turn it into a debate that's in your mind. Put that question yourself.
That's what I'm doing.
Proceed and
yes,
put on the question.
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
But you can't turn this one right now into that debate.
No, it's not a debate, Mr. Speaker.
Order. Can you ask a question? Supplementary question on the matter of the question by Honorable Mutunga, 130/2024. Please, let us stick to the rules of the House.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, The beauty of a
Because when you say that, then other members of parliament who come from the same area will also demand to be given a right of reply. You see, right now you are giving, or you've taken a digression, a total digression. The House, the rules do not allow that. Ask a question on the basis of what's there in the order paper.
Mr.
Today.
Speaker, thank you very much. I stand guided. Yeah. Except, Mr. Speaker, the beauty of joyriding, Mr. Speaker, is that a member can inquire on any matter. And this is a matter of environment, Mr. Speaker. But this is the Minister for Environment. And, Mr. Speaker, I have taken the liberty, because the Minister is here, and this matter has taken far too long, Mr. Speaker. And I thought I would just take...
It's a contentious matter.
And the women rep for Baringo is here.
Okay.
She knows
okay, ask the
that
question
petition
and then
has
she'll
not
get
been
an
replied to.
opportunity.
I have asked, is it policy for government to create a forest where there is none and try to evict people and settlers who have lived in a particular area for whatever reason, Mr. Speaker? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The MP for Mgwen, and then the MP for Butula, the MP for Budalangi, and the honorable member for Wajir South. Then, of course, we come back to Mutunga.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity.
Yes.
First, I would like to thank the CS for climate change, forestry, environment, climate change, and forestry, Honorable Aden Duale, and his team, the PSS and the DG. My question goes on a case of forest land exchange program in Nandi County, in my constituency, Mgwen constituency, a scheme called Chepkumia, Kapkangani area.
And you expect the minister
Yes,
to
I
prepare
would like
himself as you sit or stand on your feet
Yes.
and ask a completely different question from what is on the order paper.
Okay.
The rules are very clear.
Okay.
You
Now,
ask a question, a supplementary question on the matter that's on the order paper.
Okay.
But if you want something else, file it.
Okay.
File
Now,
it.
the question that is related to what is on the supplementary paper today, Honorable Speaker, is on, we have a good program that the President has put in place on planting 15,000 trees across the country. 15 billion trees. Now, however, this matter has not had a substantial or a sustainable program. For example, a number of members here have raised that most of the trees have not been attended to. We plant and we leave it there. So we get a lot of them dying. So what is the minister having in place so that you can have that? Secondly, Mr. Speaker, and lastly, is many youth in my constituency were enthusiastic on this, and they came out in large numbers to prepare tree nursery beds, and they have a lot of trees, seedlings, that are matured, yet the government have not absorbed those or purchased these tree seedlings. So what is the minister doing so that we can help these youth? These trees have matured. Nandi County, for example, is raining almost throughout the year. Is it possible that we can purchase all these tree seedlings and plant them, even if we don't have budget now? Okay. The minister can organize for this budget allocation.
You have rested your case. Let
you.
him do that bit.
Okay.
Let him do the thinking for that purpose. And the next one is the Honorable MP for Butula. Be very brief.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity. May I start by appreciating Waziri Duale for the explanation he has given to us in this House. It has been very clear, and a lot of us have learned a few things that we didn't know. Honorable Speaker, my question is on carbon credits and how the ordinary farmer in Kenya who has endured to come up with a forest, protect that forest, how can that farmer be compensated? Just to encourage the farmers also to protect their forests so that the environment is improved. If there is any way
You made your point.
The farmer can be advised
Motivated,
and helped and motivated.
Done deal.
Thank you, Speaker.
The Honorable Wanjala Raphael.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Minister for Environment said here that bamboos are used to stop flooding. I don't want to
mitigate flooding.
Sorry,
There's a
mitigate
difference
flooding.
between stopping and mitigation.
No problem, mitigate flooding.
Proceed.
I don't want to challenge him, but I want to tell him that flooding is a different thing, and mitigating flooding is a different thing. Bamboo will only stop soil erosion. It will not stop water to move, but it will stop soil erosion. Mr. Speaker, the floods that come in Budalangi, which is in Western, comes from all the way from Uasin Gishu, all the rain in Eldoret, all the rain in Cherangani, all the rain in Mount Elgon, and all the rain in Nandi Hills and parts of Kapsabet, Vihiga, Kakamega, and Bungoma. There are several rivers within those areas, but these rivers collapse into two. These small rivers collapse into two big rivers. That is River Yala and River Zoya. And they come with a very big force moving into the lake. In the process, they have carried a lot of silt. Now, at the deltas of the rivers, Zoya and Yala, and possibly Nyandu, because it's the same, they are silted at the delta, so the water is not able. We have put embankments, those dikes, but because the water cannot move into the lake, it goes behind it, and the lake is also full. And this water now runs back into people's home. Like this year, Mr. Speaker, it was 10 kilometers from the lake. And why I'm asking this question, the minister, because it is about environment that affects those people. The good thing that minister has been a minister for defense.
Like I said from the beginning.
Yeah, let me just complete. The minister has been in defense.
Yes.
And they did a good job at Kisumu when they were deserted Kisumu, where the ship are landing. They have equipments. We have equipments in the dams. Minister for Environment can help us to bring these equipments, even from National Youth Service. They have dredgers to come and desilt these rivers so that we don't have backflow from the lake that is causing problems. It goes even up to 10 kilometers. All homes are collapsed, crops are collapsed. Even the trees they are talking of planting, they dry up when there is too much water. I'm asking, what can he do, having with the experience he has, what can he do to help us? And last one, Mr. Speaker, where the minister comes from, there is one governor who was celebrated, who was awarded in, I think it's somewhere in Wajir, Mandera. That governor in a desert, what he has done, can he take his people to go and benchmark so that all our towns will look like that town in a desert? That is how Dubai was brought up. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Raphael Wanjala, you have asked a very heavy question that needs a serious work on the part of the minister and the ministry. Why don't you proceed and file a question? Or, even better, have an appointment with the minister, go to his office, he will call all his officers and discuss all the stuff that we discussed. Thank you. And finally, the Honorable MP for Wajir South.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I would like to thank Waziri for sobriety and expertise with which he has approached all the queries this afternoon. My question is about the massive destruction of the environment that's currently taking place in parts of my constituency, especially areas around the refugee camps. And I'm sure you have the same problem in other constituencies like the Dab, Fafi, and Lagdera. in Garissa County. Waziri, what I would like to ask is, are you aware?
Order. That aspect of the environment was covered by the minister very exhaustively and talked about how the UNHCR must find an alternative to the wood fuel that they're using. And he talked about all that degradation. I know you came late, but then you can either look at the Hansard itself or ask those of us who are there. But then if you have any other question you want to ask on the basis...
Speaker, you know, it's a very critical subject, and I might have my newest contribution to the whole matter. I just wanted to ask the Waziri, what is being done by the government to ensure that this wanton destruction to the environment, to the extent some parts of the constituency are turning into deserts complete with sand dunes, are reversed, and also those responsible are brought to book. Thank you very much.
Fair enough. The Honorable Jamatia, because the Honorable Kamket mentioned you, but not on that matter. Just go straight on the questions that are there.
Thank you so much.
Don't open a Pandora box and a debate between Baringo and Pokot Itiati, no.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. And I also take the opportunity to thank the Minister for the good job he's actually doing. I have listened to him several times, articulating issues, environment, and I want to say at least we are on the right path. If you look around, Mr. Speaker, I think the Minister have also realized that every town in Kenya needs urgent attention on garbage, waste, and issues to do of cleaning, specifically Nairobi. Mr. Speaker, if you go everywhere you are in Nairobi today, you realize Nairobi is so dirty.
He handled that bit very exhaustively.
Exactly.
You must have come late, but anyway, I'll come later. You're not late for anything. But
Okay.
please ask us a question.
Thank you so much.
To be more exact on issues of,
On the order paper, yes.
Yes, which is on the order paper, which is this question of 130 years.
I don't want to go back to the order paper so much, but I want to...
Carbon credit, climate
on
financing.
carbon credit, you also want to know more on utilization. We have a very sparse area, specifically in areas of Baringo. How do we, take this to the people so that you can be able. Number two, I also want to retrace back a bit on the issue of Mukutani. There is no forest in Mukutani. Maybe I would take my time to visit the office of the minister and have proper clarification on this.
Which is absolutely the way you should handle this.
And also because the officer Markoko had pronounced himself that there's a big forest in that area. I know he comes from the place, and I want to say I come from that place. There's no forest. There are utilities in that place. And lastly, I also want the minister to help me. How do we curb the issue of charcoal burning that is so rampant, specifically in our rural areas? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The MP for Bura, for Garsen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Take exactly 1 minute.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, 1 minute. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I also raised to ask question. There was a presidential directives on Tana River Forest. I think you are in that function. The Kokane Forest, Wayu Forest, and Bangal Forest, which were gazetted irregularly without public participation. Also, Mr. Speaker, there is the sea intrusion into the delta, distracting farms, forest, grazing land at Kalota. I'm happy that DG NEMA is there. Even if the minister is new, I don't know what action is NEMA or the ministry is taking. Also, the last one, Mr. Speaker, you know the floods really affect the Tana Delta. And also the issue of Prosopis Madenge, which is really destroying our grazing land, our environment. What action is the ministry taking to curb the Madenge menace? Thank you.
Order MP for Garsen, for Galole,
Garsen.
For Garsen, those are entirely different questions from what is on the order paper today. When this order paper is prepared well in advance and sent to the ministry concerned, they prepare themselves for questions that are supplementary to the matters raised in these questions. Now you are raising an entirely different thing.
But he has an answer on the fingertip.
Order. Well, he's at liberty if he has any information on that which he wants to give you now, but I would advise you, go and file questions on exactly. Members of Parliament don't have to be lazy and just wait. What do you call it? To ride on, is it? What was it called? Joyride. To joyride on the questions of others and literally change the whole substance of what's being asked there and ask an entirely different question. Please, let's have... I was in this house myself when you will not be allowed at all to raise a matter that essentially is not on the order paper.
Most obliged, Mr. Speaker, but I kindly ask because the people of...
He will give you another taking, I'm sure. You can go and see him in his office. You can file another question, but I doubt if he has answers for the issues that you have just asked now. Now, Mutunga, ask your final bite, and then the minister is going to dispose of, is going to answer everything that was raised.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Speaker, before I ask a question on climate financing, a supplementary question, there was the issue of Nairobi River that I needed the minister to explain a bit. To what extent is the government going to develop the Nairobi River? Are we just cleaning it up, or do we envisage possibilities of making it like we see in other towns when you go? A channel crossing through the city, then hotels are built on both sides, and it can even have restaurants that are movable, that are mobile. So I don't know to what extent are we developing, and is the county government of Nairobi really part of that? Because it can be demarcated, the embankments can be done, dredging can be done, and we can have channels that can actually develop some touristic attraction for this country. Now, when it comes to climate financing, I like the approach the minister has taken. I listed the institutions to around 9 or 10, and I have just been wondering, what are you doing? When are all these institutions meeting and coordinating? And how are they focusing on simplifying these complicated issues so that we can have a formula like M-Pesa, where a farmer or they say anybody has got a piece of land that they want to do to cause carbon sequestration by establishing a woodlot or a forest cover. And then we can have a simple formula of quantifying. You are very able scientist, and I believe they sit on the negotiation tables during the UNFCCC negotiations. So I believe they must understand what is happening. And these people across who are corn donors use this opportunity to delay development in this part of the world, as my friend there put it, that they make it more complicated every year, so that you keep on negotiating and negotiating. Why can't we circumvent this as a country and benefit from this? And I know Kenyan farmers are very willing to go that direction because they're looking for alternative economic activities. Thank you very much.
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, as an old leader of this House, I will answer all the questions, including the one for Mheshimiwa Kamket. But let me start with my very good sister, the member for Lamu East. Mr. Speaker, if you allow me, at one time, she's called Captain Rueda. At one time, she was a captain. Me and President Uhuru and President Ruto, she carried us in our campaign. And when I was a leader of majority, every day she used to bring a question. So she's a very, very active member of parliament. And I have been to Lamu East. I think me and Professor Kindiki, we were the first ministers to land in that island. And then our president followed us and did the first road. I hope that road is working on it. I want to assure you, even this morning, one of our biggest partners as a country, the Germans, the German ambassador, I was discussing with him how we can work together on marine ecosystem, marine, mangrove, and everything. And the first constituency will be you. You know that. She's a great leader. She even helped me, Mr. Speaker, and the Kenya Defense Forces when we were dealing with insecurity in Boni and Lamu. There's one leader who's there. Honorable Sani, Mr. Speaker, is a good friend of mine. And I want to tell him today that I am an expert on climate issues. And there are ladies, two ladies in the Ministry of Environment. One, she's called Dr. Pacifica. She's the head of Climate Secretariat. And one is called Dr. Omambia. And their team, I have never met very competent Kenyans on climate change. But climate change and climate carbon market, all that we're dealing with is what you people passed under the Climate Act and Climate Amended. So Speaker, in fact, many of the questions members are asking me is in the Climate Act as amended and the carbon market regulations that some of them were passed. And I really want to thank the House. Honorable Sane, I looked for that Gazette notice. That's why I said, if I can't find it, I'll Gazette it again. But because I have asked the Chief Forest Conservator, we are going there. He's going to operationalize that forest. And I want to assure you, the request for operationalization has been received by the leadership and the board of KFS. They are working on the plans and the resources and mobilization. And take it from me, it will be done. But on climate issues, don't go that route. It's a very, very complicated. And climate carbon, Mr. Speaker, and climate market is international. Even the people we are dealing with, they are the polluters. Who are the polluters? They are not in the global south. They are not in Africa. They are in the global north. So, Mr. Speaker, we will make sure that we deal with this matter. There was an issue on how do we deal with the pollution upstream. I think the moment we deal with the Nairobi River, and the Nairobi River, just to answer the last question, I think it was Honorable Chamatia, Nairobi River will be like the Thames River. 30. It will be one of the legacy signature projects of President Uhuru Kenyatta. And the county government of Nairobi is working with us. And we are going to put enough resources. And we're employing 20,000. People will... Mr. Speaker...
No, that was a slip of the tongue. He meant President William Ruto, not Uhuru Kenyatta.
I mean President William Ruto's signature project.
Order. Order, Honorable.
Mr. Speaker,
order. Proceed.
I spoke for President Uhuru Kenyatta for 8 years as a majority leader. And there's nothing wrong saying President Kenyatta. He was our leader. There's nothing wrong. But Nairobi River, the restoration of Nairobi River to look like the Thames River, the drenching and doing everything will be a signature project for Kenya Kwanza and more specifically for our leader, President, and the Nairobi leaders, the MPs who are here, the county governor, we are all together. Honorable,
proceed.
Honorable Speaker, you know, Honorable Wanjala has a very long history in our country. So you should not go that route. I think after I leave, we should talk outside. So on the issue of that, I think, Mr. Speaker, there is no way we can gazette a forest in a place where there's no forest. Take it from me. The people of Baringo should listen to me. You can only gazette a forest. You cannot even gazette a wetland to be a forest. But Mr. Speaker, through you, from the grapevine in my office, I am told there are many petitions concerning my ministry, and I'm not being called upon by the committee. So I want you today to ask the Committee on Petitions to invite me so that I deal with the matters of petition. That the ones I reject, I reject. The ones that require to be gazetted, I gazette. So the problem is, Honorable Kamket, is not with the executive. It is with the legislature. It is with the petition committee. And last parliament, Mr. Speaker, there was a reason why it was formed. But I want to ask you, if it has been gazetted, I will relook at it, review it, and cancel. And the gazette. If it has not been done, I will even go to that place called Mukutani. I will visit with the chief forest conservator. He's sitting here. I will go with him. We have and we have our own chopper. I will overfly it. I don't need to go with you. I will go with the chief and he will show me the forest. If there will be no forest, Mheshimiwa Kamket and Mheshimiwa the leadership, Chematia, there will be no forest. I don't want to be informed.
No provision, order. No provision for informing the CS. Just go on. Go on the CS.
Mr. Speaker, there were many things that
you have to understand that.
Mr. Speaker, you saved me. There were many questions which had nothing to do with a good question by Honorable Mtungo on carbon. The member for Emegwen. I think what happened was that the Forest Committee Association of 2016, which allowed land exchange, the Nandi County offered the land to KFS for exchange. It's in the process and we'll update you. And I'll fast track it. Chief Conservator, how many weeks? 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 1 month? We will deal with it. Mr. Speaker, the issue of climate finance is what we'll build on adaptation and mitigation. So we will build the capacity, the adaptation capacity of our vulnerable communities, especially in the ASAL. Honorable members from the ASAL, you know of an organization called Northern Trust Fund. It does carbon market and carbon trading. It has created conservancies in ASAL. I have sat with them. But the law you amended, you gave to me, 40% will go to communities. The only conservancy, in fact, there are only 2 conservancies. The oldest conservancy in Garissa County is in Ijara. The member for Ijara should sit with the NRT and ask them, of the billions you have received as carbon credit, how did the Hirola Conservancy gained? But going forward with this law, 40% will go to the communities. The communities will sign something called Community Development Agreement. And who are they signing with? Somebody will come from America, from China, he'll come to your area, and he'll say, I've got a carbon market project. That carbon market project is where the community will say, we want education, we want water, and it must be 40% of the proceeds. And me being there, Mr. Speaker, I will make sure our people get it. Mr. Speaker, let me just repeat it, because what you, an honorable member for Fafi, an honorable for Wajir South, is unacceptable. And there was failure on government. UNHCR, I have spoken even to the Minister for Foreign Affairs. We will deal with that matter. I will deal with it. They have a global mandate on the affairs of our people in the refugee camps. We have nothing against, as the Kenya government, against the refugees. But UNHCR, whether they like it or not, they must provide an alternative source of energy to fuel wood.
Absolutely.
If we have to do 60% of the 15 billion tree growing strategy of the president and the government in the dry areas, and somebody is cutting, and Honorable Ado of Wajir South, please, with your colleagues, led by the speaker on the chair, I want us to go to that area. Ban those firewoods. Take the international community. We will expose UNHCR as one of the UN bodies one of the UN bodies that is doing opposite of what the world is doing in the fight against climate change. Am I right, Mr. Speaker? I think I am very right.
Yes, yes.
So on that one, I want the support of the members.
Indeed.
And I think finally, Honorable Honorable Mutunga, I will invite you when you are free. I want you to sit with the NEMA, where it is domiciled, the carbon market trading. I want you to sit with the lady called in charge of the climate secretariat, so that, and one of the times maybe when Parliament is meeting, we can invite, particularly the pastors parliamentary group. I think you have a summit. Yes. I think one of the agenda should be those experts to come and explain, and even to other members in Akamkunji, what the whole climate carbon market credit and trading is all about. And Mr. Speaker, I have stayed here for more hours.
I think
and it is a very privilege to be here.
You've answered everything except one order.
Yes.
Except one thing.
Yes.
And that is the MP for Mgwen talking about young men and women who created their own nurseries.
Yes.
And how you will get them involved and maybe purchase those.
Yes, and on the issue of Tana River, yes, my very good friend, my good friend, member for Garsen. Yes. I don't want to say his nickname, but he has a very nice, famous nickname. I want to assure you, those areas which were gazetted forest in 2016, because of political expediency, I will revisit them. But as the Speaker said, help me bring a petition so that I can deal with it. Even me, I don't want to be accused of making roadside declaration or declaration on the floor of the House. As the Speaker said, bring a petition. But even before you bring a petition or question, I will ask the Kenya Forest leadership, CCF, and the PS to give us. We want the Kenyans to work with us. We want, Mr. Speaker, because I am a former member of Parliament, I always say it is good if ministers are politicians. Always. Because they feel the heat. And I have nothing against my colleagues who are not. I don't want to be misquoted. But when they are politicians, they know the problems. But Mr. Speaker, I've stayed here for long hours. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. This is my second home. The question on Nandi, for now, for the 15 billion, number one, because we don't want citizens and everybody to miss seedlings. 5 government institutions, if you go to them, you get seedlings. Kenya Defense Forces, NYS, Kenya Prison, Kenya Forest Service, KEFRI. They have the mandate to produce. Secondly, through the private sector and government, we are encouraging people, and we will buy from these young Kenyans and the private sector who have invested in seedlings. So the member for Emengwen, I can tell you, we have a plan for them, and we have a way to empower them. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I cherish this House, and I'll always respect it, the House and its committee, and the members for you lead from the refugee. Please, I want you to stand with me. I will be very firm. I need your support. Mheshimiwa Ado's video has gone viral, and I think anybody who saw that video then will see what UNHCR is doing to the environment. Not now, they have done it since 1992 when the Speaker was a member of Parliament on Fort Kenya.
Minister, I think you've done your bit, and members are very happy, I can see. This has been one of the most animated debates where the interest was really, really high, and for good reasons. Now you can retreat, and then we will go to the business of the House.
Thank you.
You are free, Minister, with your team. Next order.
Order number 8, the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 11 of 2024, second reading, resumption of debate.